Well, I thought it was time for another fountain pen shootout. And the shootout we're doing today was requested. If you heard weird noises, I just grabbed my size comparison pen. Someone requested this shootout, and I kind of see why. So here we go. This is a Titan Pens Torpedo, which in my case has a special nib on it, but it would come with a Bach number 8 nib. This is a Bach number 8 nib, it's just a Danny Trio nib, but you would get it with titanium, or William Shakur, who makes these, he now has number 8 steel nibs, which I should definitely try out at some point. And then here we have the Opus 88 Omar, and then this is just the Pilot Metropolitan for size comparison. So as you can see, all of them bigger, well, all of them, both of them bigger pens. Now I've reviewed these pens. This is certainly not meant as a review, it's really a comparison, but let's talk about some of the commonalities and some of the differences. So let's start with the Opus 88. Certainly a larger pen, I would say, and the interesting thing about this pen is, first of all, it comes in different finishes, but the most interesting thing is the filling system. It's a one-way shut-off valve. So if I do this, hopefully you can see a little bit, there is a piston in there. That piston can be unscrewed here at the bottom, then a seal up there goes down, primary ink chamber, secondary ink chamber. At some point, trying to get the ink out, which is not that easy. At some point this is empty, you have to open up that valve and ink flows in again, and then you can write again, and as you write, the secondary reservoir will run dry again, so you can open up that seal at the there with that turning knob at the end, and that's pretty much all there's to it. That also allows you to regulate wetness a bit. Now I found that sometimes people who don't know the system think that's going to be a night and day difference. I've not found it to be a night and day difference, but you can certainly take it from fairly wet to a bit wetter. I know that sounds a bit stupid, but it's not going to go from bone dry to gushingly wet. It's just not really how that system works. Now, if you're not familiar with that system, you fill this pen with an eyedropper. So the section unscrews, you take an eyedropper, you fill the barrel with ink, you screw the section back on again. And something that I always do, it's a trick I learned from Kevin from Fountain Pen Revolution, is I screw the section about halfway in, hold the pen over the ink, then screw the section for the other 50%, and then a bit of ink kind of goes down, primes the feed, and you can start writing with it. This one has a broad nib. I'm just going to take a sip of tea, people. Thank you. A broad nib, but they're Yovo nibs, so if you have Yovo nibs lying around, you can put other nibs in. Number 6 nib, steel, nothing particularly fancy, but it is, in my mind, it is a nice writer. As you can see, it is again a larger pen, and these kind of sort of post, but not very reliably so. Something I really like about it is it's easy to clean, because you just unscrew the section. You can just flush this out with a syringe, and you can unscrew the nib unit as well. Just put that syringe in the back, flush water through, and you're done very quickly with cleaning. As I said, different finishes. I really like the clear though. I like being able to see that. Downside to clear is, of course, that you may get some ink trapped in the cap. I know some people are very concerned, sounds a bit too strong, but some people really hate that. One thing you might find interesting to know then is that this part actually unscrews, and with a lot of ease, so I'm just doing it a little careful to not drop anything, take this out, then you just have a hole there. You can just run a bit of water through the cap and it's clean, and then just roll up a tissue and you're done. There is, here, there's a little bit of blackness, which I try to align the clip with, and then you just screw this back in, and then you're back in business. Quite a lot of threads, so it takes a sec, but very easy. This pen comes in at $150, so it's not super cheap, but I think you get a really nice pen with a large ink capacity. So if ink capacity matters to you, this is definitely a nice pen to check out. And then we have the Torpedo that William makes. I think he does fantastic work. He 3D prints these pens. The level of polishing here is great, very nice, very clear. For once, I actually put the same ink in both pens. I know it's a miracle because I often forget, but here we are. Torpedo shaped, nice flat top, piston turning knob, so this is a piston filled pen. Large ink capacity because these are big reservoirs. William makes large pens. Thread at the bottom there. Yes, if you dip it into ink to fill it up, there will be some ink trapped in these threads, but if you have a close look at them, I think you can see them, but I'll try to zoom in a bit. Really wide threads, so it doesn't really matter because you can clean them very easily. Number 8 Bock nib, so with an ebonite feed. I've replaced that here with one of the nylon feeds that William makes. I find they have a nice ink flow. They keep up very well with the ink demand of the nib. So this, again, that's this specific configuration, but you would get that not with this fancy Danny Trio nib. This would have a titanium or a steel number 8 nib. Works very well. Nice piston turning knob, nice and smooth. I have to be a little careful because there is ink in the pen, as you can see. And if you want to, you can actually post this model and you have a really clearly big, girthy pen. That's the one thing I'd say about Williams pens. If you have dainty little hands, they might not be for you because they are really big. I like that he has done this kind of torpedo shape, cigar shape, call it what you will. I guess cigar would have rounded ends. Anyway, there's no texture or shape to the section beyond the natural curve that you see here. So unlike with the Opus 88, which has that taper down and then flare out a little bit, the Torpedo does not have that. So if you don't like a girthier pen, you can pass this by safely because it's big. And if I hold them up side by side like this, you'll see what I mean. Here we have the Torpedo, and here we have the Opus 88. You see the diameter is quite a bit bigger in the Torpedo. No clip, but I find it fine. William does make, I'm sorry about that noise, he does make pen rests, which he 3D prints. You can buy. He really wanted to make me a hot pink one, so I mean, there we are. It works really well. Right? Very, very solid, very secure. I mean, obviously, okay, that was not the greatest demonstration. This thing is a cutting board I have at the bottom, and it's warped a bit, so things roll off. But if you align that properly with the cap, as you can see, no issue. Very tight, very secure. So that works really well. Let's do a quick comparison in writing between these two pens. I have here some of this Pelican Hub paper. It's not the greatest paper in the world, but it'll get the job done. We'll start with the Opus 88. This is a broad steel nib. The ink is Monteverde Chameleon. I have not, I'm sorry about that, but I have not experimented with this. Is this supposed to do something? Is it meant to change color? I haven't fiddled with it. You tell me. Jowo number 6 nib has the advantage, Brown, that you can easily swap it out if you have other Jowo nibs. The whole nib unit unscrews, very easy. Nice, smooth writer. I've had no issues with it. Fairly, as you can see, fairly wet. I could open this up more. I'll just, and I have this fully unscrewed for increased wetness. Again, I never get the feeling it makes a night and day difference, but there we are. So pretty good, lovely writer, and I find this a really comfortable size that although it is bigger, I feel this would work for a lot of people. I don't think it is too big for most folks. Okay, then let's try to do next to that the Torpedo, which I had not used in a day or two, but there we go. I didn't really prime the feed This is a Mike Masuyama tuned nib. This is an 18K stub. This nib doesn't seem to like this ink an awful lot, but it's not a review of the pen or the nib. I've done a review, but it's more about the writing experience. That's why I do these shootouts. Also really nice and wet. So experience-wise, the Torpedo, much girthier, much bigger. Again, I don't think this one is really appropriate for people with smaller hands, but it is a very pleasant writer, and I do really like it, especially if you have one of those pen rests to make sure it doesn't fall off your desk. The Opus 88, cheaper, but works very well, very robust. That one-way shut-off valve is a nice system. I do like it. I will say I'll take a piston filler over that any day of the week simply because I find it easier to fill. This, easier to clean because you unscrew the section, flush it out, you're basically done. This takes more time, but it's easier to fill. And sometimes you just want to fill something quickly, not unscrew something and go looking for an eyedropper and that sort of stuff. So there you have it. I like both of these pens, and they're different. And I think the real reason, I'm assuming the person wanted to see the Shootout, is that they're both bigger. They're both, in this case, clear, or at least translucent. But that's it. So two great pens. I love them both. Were I to have to choose, I'd pick the Torpedo, but they're both really, really nice. And really check out the Omar. I think it is a very nice model, very comfortable. And again, that big capacity is really nice. So there you have it. I hope that was useful, and I'll gladly see you later. Bye.